Okay, Nick, let's now focus on a huge game coming up in the Premier League this weekend. Newcastle United against Manchester City. Two teams in very different places right now ahead of this clash at St James's Park. I mean, you're a huge Newcastle fan. You're our Magpies expert here at PST. Lost 5 of the last 6 in the Premier League. Injuries galore. Confidence is low. Nick, what's going on, mate? What's going wrong, aside from the obvious injury issues?
Yeah, look, the injury issues were big. They're still significant, but I think how Eddie Howe reacted to those injuries is what has put them in this position. And it's one of the reasons when there starts to be grief around him. Like, I don't absolutely love him, but I respect the job he's done. I think getting grief and talking about him, needing someone else for that position misses the point. He made a mistake. He used the same guys for about 3 weeks nonstop. And some of them were in high traffic positions that you just can't do that with. And he felt he needed to do that to maintain the League Cup run and the Champions League run and the Premier League run. And I think for a few weeks you saw them kind of cooked. This is an opportunity to have a game on a week's rest, to know it's your last game, to have a real week on the training ground, to prepare for a team that Eddie Howe's done a great job preparing for in Man City. So the question is, can Bruno Guimaraes, Fabian Schär, players who have run up the minutes, have missed only basically League Cup starts and then always come in to play in those, can they look a little fresher? And if that's the case, Guimaraes is their best player. If he can look a little fresh, then they've got a shot here. They will turn it around. It's just a matter of, will they turn it around before February? Because they might need a little more time to rest.
Yeah, some huge players missing through injury. Obviously, Nick Pope was a big one. In goal, Harvey Barnes is yet to return. Callum Wilson has gone down again. Joe Willock's still out. Joe Linton as well, struggling to be fit for this one. So it just seems like it keeps on coming for Newcastle. And they're still in touch and distance of the top 6. If they finish in the top 6 again this season, that's still a phenomenal achievement given the rigors of the Champions League, being in the group of death there, going deep in cup competitions already. So it's not all doom and gloom for Newcastle, but boy, could they use a big morale boost and win here against Man City. And they have played City well in recent games, especially at home, and caused them a lot of problems. But we mentioned Man City then. Nick, obviously, after that Club World Cup win, they're surging, kind of look like their old selves, don't they? And got their, again, confidence levels back up a little bit. But the thing for them, I think, is the biggest confidence boost is that nobody took advantage of those slip-ups that they had before the festive period and around it, right? They left the door wide open for Arsenal, for Liverpool and others to really compound those pretty miserable defensive displays and those late collapses, but nobody did it. So having Kevin De Bruyne back as well is huge, and we know he's caused Newcastle a lot of problems over the years. So what are your feelings on Man City, just generally heading into this game, but overall, because even with Erling Haaland out injured, they haven't really missed a beat in recent weeks.
I would love to know, and we can't look it up right now, so I'm not going to put you on the spot there. I would love to know how many games they've lost decisively or performed poorly in when Kevin De Bruyne and Rodri are healthy.
Yep.
That's, you talk about building up the middle. And even when the thing about Rodri that's so special is, for a couple of years, we would have talked about Ruben Dias as performing even better than Virgil van Dijk. And he hasn't been at his very best. We've now seen center backs come in and drop out and be at their best. And Laporte at a certain point in time looked like one of the best center backs in the world as well. I wonder how much of that goes to Rodri. And Rodri, it's a, I don't know how to say it. It's a domino effect, right? Rodri, what he does lets the center backs be better. He's part of what makes Kevin De Bruyne able to drift and play that sort of, I don't want to call it a messy role, but it's an imperfect comparison, but it's not too far off. Yeah. And that allows the wingers to get into advantageous positions. So once Haaland's back, whether that's this week or whenever, man, you talked about it perfectly. If I'm Arsenal, if I'm Liverpool, even though they've only barely lost, I'm thinking, I think I might have missed a chance here.
Yeah, because if City win their game in hand, they'll only be 2 points behind Premier League leaders Liverpool. So that is not an insurmountable deficit there, given how well Man City usually finish the season. And now they usually kick on right between the new year and the end of the season. This is go time, and when they really click into that final gear. Talking of that, I think for this game, Nick, the key battles, it'll be interesting to see how Pep lines up his attacking talents, because Grealish, Foden, Alvarez, all these players there in that attacking third, all bring something slightly different. And like Doku is back now from injury, which again adds an extra layer to their attack and a different string to their bow. So I guess Man City have so many different ways they can hurt you that it's difficult to prepare for facing them, other than just sitting back, soaking up pressure and hoping that you can counter them, because they can do that. They can give you chances on the break. We've seen that this season in a lot of those draws where they've coughed up late goals, and Newcastle are pretty good at doing that.
Yeah, listen, time on the training ground to boot is big for them. There was, no League Cup action this week. It was a easy enough FA Cup game at the weekend, with all due respect. It was Huddersfield Town, right? Like it was not a huge challenge for them. And that's why I think if you give Pep Guardiola a week to prepare for a game, on all the motivation that entails, I think they'll take advantage of Sean Longstaff, who's a good and busy player, but not always the most disciplined in his positioning on the field. I think they'll find a way to take Guimaraes off his game. And then it comes down to somehow stopping Isak, who just, if he gets a chance, he generally takes it. And it just feels like it's hard to go to St. James's. It is. It's a very difficult place to play. It's become a cauldron, is one of my favorite English terms to use here. But if anybody's going to do it in a significant manner, I don't know, it has to be a big day for Sven Botman, and it has to be another performance like Martin Dubravka had against Liverpool. It has to be that again, and it's asking a lot. It's asking a lot.
It really is. I just worry about Newcastle a little bit, that when things do unravel, you saw it with Eddie Howe at Bournemouth sometimes. It kind of was quite a sustained period of drop-off, and I really would love to see a reaction from them. Probably not in this game, because this is the hardest game on the schedule. But I do worry if the highs of being in the Champions League and then getting all the way to the final group stage game and then not being in Europe at all because of a couple of bad performances, how badly that will impact this team, because they worked so hard for that. And I don't think they're going to finish in the top 4 this season, even if they have a tremendous comeback and a reaction. So it's kind of like a little bit the day after your birthday, right? It's great. You've had a great time. You got some great gifts and a great party. But then it's like, okay, like what next? It's just a normal day now. We got to figure out what the next step is and what the next stage. And they've overachieved for so long now that it's kind of weird going back to, all right, if we finish 7th and have a good cup run, then that is a tremendous season for us. And I don't think the owners are willing right now to put huge sums of money on transfer fees to solve that in January, or really help with that in January. So that's not going to solve the issue.
Yeah, Joe, wouldn't that be? And again, I'm new to the having lots of money in my club game, but I would say that isn't that such a huge risk to do that in January and chase standing? Because if you don't make it in, you can't spend that in the summer, right? Like the same considerations will come in. I will say this. I love the birthday comparison, because, every once in a while somebody misses your party and you meet up with them later and they bring you a present, or maybe it's Christmas or a different holiday and you go out to lunch like, oh, I got you this for the holiday. Maybe that's what Sunderland was. Such a welcoming committee from the Black Cats to redecorate their stadium for Newcastle, which was insane. What a moment that was. But when Newcastle, Bruno celebrating after, forcing into a goal kick of all things and taking a picture on the field after the game, I wonder if the one thing I think Newcastle's ownership has done exceptionally well is they took over, but they also embraced the history of the club. And everybody knew that game mattered, that playing Sunderland for the first time in almost a decade mattered. Maybe that can be the gift that extends the birthday a little bit and brings the vibes to St. James Park for this big game.
Yeah, let's wait and see if anybody's dishing out presents or early New Year's gifts this weekend. What's your score prediction for this one, mate? I think there's going to be quite a few goals in this one, given how both teams have struggled defensively a little bit.
Yeah, I think Newcastle will score. I think Man City will score more. I just think KDB, I'm assuming he's right there to start or get more significant minutes. So I'll call it 3-1 to Man City.
Yeah, great minds think alike. I'm going 3-1 to City as well. I just think they got too much firepower, too many options right now. And hey, they haven't even had Erling Haaland. So wait until he comes back, and I'm sure he's going to have a big second half of the season. So head over to Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com for all the latest ahead of Newcastle against Manchester City this weekend at St James's Park. Let's see if KDB can fire City back towards the top of the table. Maybe Newcastle can cause a huge upset. They've certainly done that to plenty of big teams in the past. It's going to be a fun one at St James's Park.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. And for even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock. And be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend on USA Network and on Peacock. We will see you there.